What's up YouTube? So this is pre-programmed series episode number 5, how to track your macros in MyFitnessPal, how to make sure you're plugging everything in correctly and not make any mistakes with that. So if you don't know what this pre-programmed series is for, it's for the 30-day Kickstart program. This video is going to be a great source of information for you whether you're doing the 30-day program or not. But I do want to let you guys know, if you're new to my channel or this is the first video you're seeing from me, the 30-day Kickstart program is a free program trainer that I've made this playlist for. You can download the program for free off my website. So go watch the first video. I'm gonna have the first video actually linked down in the description box below for you guys. So you can just go ahead and go watch it. It explains what the program is, what we're doing with it. If you're watching it before July 17th, 2017, then you can actually enter in to win the grand prize. But everything's free, so go check it out. Link down below, and let's just get right into it for tracking your food. I've made a list of everything I'm gonna cover. So we're gonna start with produce, go to meat, alcohol, chain restaurants, non-chain restaurants, catering events, potlucks, anything you can think of. So how to track those as accurately as possible. So we're just gonna start right at the top. So produce is the first one. So for produce, we're talking anything without a label on it, anything without a package around it. So we're talking fruits, vegetables, whole grains, stuff like potatoes, strawberries, broccoli, bananas, stuff without a label on it, stuff without a package. So how you're gonna track that is you're going to type in the name of the food, so maybe it's banana, and then you're gonna type in the letters USDA. And so what that does is it pulls up the USDA database entry for that food. The USDA database is the most reliable and accurate food database in terms of calorie and macronutrient and vitamin and mineral content. So it's important that we pull up the USDA entry for our produce so that we're making sure we're plugging in our food as accurately as possible. So once you have that up, you're gonna see my screen here. It's gonna come up with the per 100 gram entry for this food. I would suggest to stay away from cup measurement entries because they can be very inaccurate depending on the food and the volume or the weight of the food. So I would stick with grams and ounces. You can see here that you can change between the units, and I would just advise to stick with grams and ounces if you want to be as accurate as possible. And I like to keep my MyFitnessPal settings on the decimal side so I can just do the math easily depending on if I'm doing 150 grams or 4.2 ounces and stuff like that. So depending on what you measure out on the scale, that's what you're going to be plugging into MyFitnessPal. Next up, we have meat. So for meat, the big question that I get is, do I measure it raw or cooked? And the answer is you can do either. Whichever you do, just make sure you pick the entry that's gonna match that. Plugging in meat is very similar to plugging in produce. You're gonna type in the type of meat, the leanness of that meat, and USDA. So for example, if I have 99% lean chicken breast, I'm gonna type that in exactly as I just said it, and then I'm gonna type in the letters USDA. Then lastly, you're gonna type in either cooked or raw. And you're gonna make sure that when you pick an entry, and you'll see my screen here, I'm scrolling through the different options, you're gonna make sure that the title of that entry says either cooked or raw. And what I would do is I would look through a couple of them, make sure they're consistent, and if you are seeing a consistent pattern with the macronutrient content and the calorie content per serving of this food, then I would say it's very reliable. You can also go by the green check. That also means that it's reliable and verified by MyFitnessPal. But that's how you're gonna plug in meat. And for meat, I typically like to stick with ounces. It's the easiest for me, but you can do grams as well if you want. Next up, we're gonna do alcohol. So this one's a little bit trickier because alcohol, the entries on MyFitnessPal does not have a macronutrient content, but we still have to account for those calories in our macros. Now, if you're just accounting for calories, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna search the alcohol, type in the amount, and then you're going to plug it in and just have it be a part of your daily caloric intake, and it doesn't count for protein. And that's essentially what we're doing with our macros, but we're just plugging it in as a carb or a fat in order to account for that in our carb and fat macros to hit our numbers. Let's say you have 30 grams of carbs left for the day and you want to fill it with red wine. That is totally okay. So what you're gonna do is you're going to take 30 grams of carbs, multiply that by 4 because carbs are 4 calories per gram. 30 times 4 is 120, so you have 120 calories worth that you can use towards alcohol. So what you do is you're gonna search, let's say you wanted that red wine. You search the type of red wine that you have. You'll see on the screen here, I'm pulling it up, and conveniently enough, 120 calories worth of wine is 5 ounces. You just plug that in. You can see that the wine entry has 000 for the macronutrients. So that means we need to add in carbs or fats in order for this to account towards our macros. What you can see I'm doing here is I'm searching the word carb, and carb is gonna come up, and I'm gonna put the unit to 1 gram, and I'm gonna type in 30 servings of 1 gram. Then I have 30 grams of carbs accounted for with my wine, as you can see here, and that is how you're gonna plug it in. Now this is going to kind of skew what your total daily calorie intake on MyFitnessPal is. So if you're tracking macros, you go to your daily totals and you can see that those 30 grams of carbs are accounted for in your macros, and that's what you should be worrying about, is the carbs, the proteins, and the fats. But if you're counting for calories, then you obviously don't need to do this because the wine has the calorie content already plugged in itself. So if you're tracking macros, just don't worry about what happens with the calories when you do that. Just know that you're accounting for 120 calories worth of wine or whatever alcohol you are having. Next, we are going to talk about chain restaurants. So these ones are easy. Most chain restaurants have all of their nutrition facts, macronutrients, everything online. If they don't already have it on MyFitnessPal, it's gonna be on their website. To list a few: The Cheesecake Factory, Chipotle, Qdoba, Cava, Mod Pizza, Domino's Pizza. Even Wegmans has their food, like their sushi, in MyFitnessPal already. So what you're gonna do with chain restaurants is you're just going to plug it in as is. So if I get a bowl from Chipotle and I see they're scooping in the chicken and the rice and the tomatoes and whatever, I'm gonna plug in the entries that I'm showing you here. Now, let's say they scoop it out and you think, wow, that looks like a lot more than 4 ounces of rice, which is a lot of times, most of the time, that is the case. If you think they're giving you more, I would highly recommend overestimating. Now, if you're maintaining or trying to gain weight, this doesn't matter so much, but if you're trying to lose body fat for these 30 days, guys, it's very important that you overestimate just a little bit to be safe, to know what you're putting in your body, and to make sure you're not accidentally going over your goals. Overestimate a little bit. Maybe if it looks like 6 ounces, then type in like 6.2 ounces and just like be safe about it. And as you measure out your food at home, you're gonna get so much better at just looking at what they're scooping out for you or what they're serving you and being like, okay, this is definitely this many ounces or this many grams. Just practice that. That's what you're gonna do with chain restaurants. Chain restaurants are pretty straightforward like that. And then we're going into non-chain restaurants. So the first option of what you can do is, if it's a non-chain restaurant that's pretty similar to a chain restaurant, like let's say it's like a knockoff Chipotle, or you're getting burgers and fries, then use a chain restaurant's data. What I like to do is when I go out and get a burger at some nice restaurant, I use TGI Fridays or Red Robin's. Like Red Robin has like an online calorie and macronutrient like burger calculator. It's actually so cool. You can go on the Red Robin website and you can like build your burger ingredient by ingredient, and it'll tell you calorie and macronutrient content. So if you're getting burgers, you can actually use that for wherever you go and just kind of use that as your guesstimate. So with non-chain restaurants, it's pretty much gonna be an estimated guess, a guesstimate. So let's say you're getting a burger with fries and you're at some restaurant that you've never heard of before. It's like a family owned, really small, and you get like a burger with goat cheese and pineapple and fried bacon or something like really extravagant or different that you would never be able to find at a chain restaurant. What I suggest doing is to find maybe a goat cheese burger with fries. Maybe you find an entry of fries from Outback. You use the Aussie fries entry and you plug that in as your side of fries. And maybe you use a TGI Fridays like goat cheese and bacon burger recipe. And then maybe on top of that, to account for like the pineapple or the fried like batter, you add some grams of fat, or you add a slice of USDA pineapple. Maybe you add 20 grams or so to account for a slice, and that would be your estimated guess, your guesstimate. Basically just if you don't know what the macronutrient content of an entree at a place is, you would go ingredient by ingredient. So let's say you're at some like random poke shop. Poke is like a huge trend for food nowadays, and it's very easy to track because you can just think, okay, I got ahi tuna. I'm gonna search ahi tuna, plug in the number of ounces you think you see. I got brown rice with it, I'll plug that in. I got sprouts, I got like each ingredient you can just plug in separately and that'll give you a pretty good estimate of what you actually got. Again, this is not about being pinpoint accurate, it's about accounting for the approximate calories, the approximate macros, so that you're staying on track while being able to eat out. It's not about being pinpoint accurate, you don't need to bring your food scale around. You're using your food scale 99% of the time when you're at home, but when you go out, you gotta use those skills to make mindful decisions, and that's what flexible dieting is about. The only other thing I'll say is if you're eating out and you're unsure and you wanna just plug it in later, take a picture of your plate. That's the number one thing I'm gonna say. Take a picture of your plate so that you can reference that picture later and look at the serving sizes and be like, okay, I think this was like 6 ounces by looking at the picture or something. That leads me into the last one. Catering events, work events, social events, dinners, potlucks. What I'm gonna say is the exact same thing as non-chain restaurants. You're gonna take a picture of your plate, maybe put it on Snapchat or something. Like, no one's gonna notice that you're taking a little screenshot of your food. And then what you do is you just pick foods that you know you're gonna be able to eat and not go over your numbers. Like, know going into whatever event how much food you have left to spare, how many macros, how many calories you have left, so that you don't go overboard. Pick good serving sizes, pick the foods that are higher in protein, that are lower in carbs, lower in fats, pick smaller serving sizes, eat till you're full, stop when you're full, and then just plug it in later. And if you messed up and you went over your macros a little bit, that's okay. You're still making a more mindful decision than if you just said, shit, work event, I'm just gonna screw it for the night and start over tomorrow. It's much better if you actually try and account for it and plug it in later, and maybe you see that you were over on your fats by 10 grams. It's not a big deal compared to the damage you could have been doing. So just always keep that in perspective. Take a picture of your plate, go ingredient by ingredient. If you don't know what something is, if someone cooked something from home, just look it up and find what you think the most similar entry would be. You can ask the people that made the food what they made it with, what the recipe was. They're not gonna think it's because you're super health conscious. They're gonna think it's because you think it's damn good and you wanna know what's in it. So just little things like that can help inform you on what you're eating, what you're putting into your body at events like these. So just be curious, ask questions, take that picture of your plate and plug everything in, ingredient by ingredient or entree by entree, and just do your best and don't stress. So that is all I have for you guys on tracking your macros as accurately as possible. I do have one other video about this on my channel if you want to go watch it. But that's it. So that's pre-program series episode number 5. We are moving right along. We are almost close to the start date now. The start date is July 17th. Make sure to download the program, join in with me, and even if you're watching this after the fact, go download the program, try it out. It's 30 days. It's a 30-day commitment for feeling your best, looking your best, and starting a healthy lifestyle and really kickstarting your healthy lifestyle. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next episode of the pre-program series, and then we're gonna get going and get started with the plan. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.